somebody, like, my dad was like, I hope she is okay. This is before cell phones.
I was just going to say that.
and and my dad's friend was like, oh, I wouldn't worry about Joy. She can handle it. And so when I told him the story, like later, he was like, oh yeah, you handled it. It was a little scary coming back, not the train ride. We took a taxi from the train ride back to the sanitarium, and he was driving like, I don't know, 100 miles an hour on this very pot-filled road. And there was no seatbelts in the back of the car. And I was like, this is where we're going to die.
Not the drunk guy.
Not the drunk guy. No, it was the taxi driver.
Taxi driver.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, and each week on the pod, I have conversations with incredible guests from all walks of life. Expect to hear funny, crazy, emotional, life-changing, and even sometimes life-threatening stories and experiences that will entertain and inspire you. As always, I appreciate your likes, subscriptions, ratings, and reviews wherever you are listening. It doesn't sound like much, but it truly helps the pod get to the ears of more people who may enjoy it. And check out the website, whybpodcast.com, for links to the socials where you can find pictures from the guests and their stories, and also buy merch if you're so inclined. Now let's get to this week's episode. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into what is bound to be another fantastic episode of the Where Have You Been podcast. I'm your host, Bill Ream, as always. And today I have the pleasure of introducing you all to somebody who is really, when I say a world traveler, I mean really a world traveler. And also, I mean, how could you get a better expert on travel than someone who is the CEO and owner of their own travel agency? I have Joy on the podcast today, and everyone could use a little more joy. So let me allow you, if you don't mind, to introduce yourself to our listeners. Joy, who are you? And welcome.
Hello. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am a world traveler. I've been to almost 60 countries, and that love of travel started from when I was just a little baby. I think it's a little bit genetic. My grandmother, I think, has been to about 100 countries. My parents have been to a lot of countries. And so that love of travel has just passed on down to me. But more importantly, I am the mom of two littles, a 4 and 5-year-old, who we are passing the love of travel on down to them as well. And as you mentioned, the CEO and co-owner of Butler Travel. We are a full-service travel agency that really focuses on helping organizations and individuals who run group travel, whether it's for humanitarian purposes or educational purposes, with all their airplane ticketing and other travel logistics.
I think that's awesome, and I think it's kind of cool to have that niche, because I feel like, and I haven't researched it, so I don't know that. I'm not speaking with research and knowledge, but I feel like there's probably a very limited number of travel agencies that really kind of focus on something like that. I think most, I feel like, are more like full service. Not that you're not full service, but just
Right.
sort of like, hey, we're going to do whatever we need to do to make the money, and not necessarily have a focus. Or if they're focused on like cruises or resorts.
Yeah, most travel agencies really are either just like full service. They focus on whatever, and they are just smaller in their town that they're in, or they are focused specifically on cruises or on weddings, destination weddings, or on the all-inclusive resorts. So we are different in that we have a very mission service-based travel agency.
Was that because that was something that really was a passion for you?
So do you want the long story or the short story?
I love long stories.
I know you do. So I figure I'd go with the long story. Okay. So we're going to go way back to when I was 13. And my parents had this grand idea of giving their children a different perspective on life. And so they decided the best way to do that would be to move us to Zambia and have us live in a different country, in a different culture, and experience that kind of life where you're a missionary kid and you see need and poverty all around you. Now, as I mentioned, I was 13, so you can imagine I wasn't super thrilled about their plan. As a matter of fact, I think I didn't talk to them really for like 6 months. I was so mad. I think my parents definitely wondered if they had made the right decision, but they did. I definitely came to love it. And from that experience, it's definitely shaped my goals and visions in life to be much more other center, other people focused. Anyway, so after graduating from college, which I got a degree in public relations, I worked in public relations for like a month. And then I was like, whoa, it's summertime. I don't really want to be working a 9 to 5. Like, I'm too young for this. So I went on a road trip with some friends through we all just graduated. This was right after Katrina, so we went down to Mississippi and we helped with some cleanup there. Then we went over to Mexico and we helped paint a church, and we just like kind of traveled through these countries doing work in exchange for
How did you
free
find,
places to stay.
like, obviously you knew that there's need, obviously,
Yeah.
but
So yeah, it was kind of just like so word of mouth, people having connections, and then also um, I just kind of looked up when we were like in a country, just looked up some places that maybe could use us and reach out to them, and they were like, "Sure, stop by."
excellent.
So yeah, so like in Belize, we were working at a school, and then the work kind of petered out, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder what else there's, I could do." And there was an orphanage, so I went over to the orphanage in for like a week. And anyways, it didn't. Our goal was to get all the way through south to Argentina, and about Guatemala, the team disintegrated. Too much time together, I think, in a Land Cruiser slash sleeping in who knows where. So the differences of opinion. I just went off on my own, and so did some other people, or some of them just went back to the United States and made it down through Panama. When I was in Panama, I had so I was like traveling on like a $10 a day budget. So I had to decide whether or not I wanted to eat sometimes, or if I want to pay for a bus ticket to get from one place to another. And so when I was in Panama City, I had gotten there at 7 o'clock at night. I had a Lonely Planet travel guidebook, and there was supposed to be this hotel. I had the taxi take me there. It was closed. I saw another hotel, and I was like, all right, just take me to this place. I happened to be in like the worst part of town.
Of
Not
course.
not the best place to be when you're 22 and white and American, but and a girl. Anyways,
Hmm.
I went into this hotel. I was so tired. I was like, whatever. It was $5, fit my budget. I got to the room and realized that there was only a lock on the outside of the door, not the inside of the door.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So at that point, I really should have been like, you know what? I have my dad's credit card for emergencies. Let me find a better place. But I didn't think about it. I was just so tired. I was like, I'm just going to go to sleep. I kind of like figured out how to tie the door shut with something else so that, at least I would know somebody was coming into the room. I went to sleep. About an hour later, I wake up to scurrying sounds. These rats, which I'm probably exaggerating. They, in my memory, they were like, you know,
Size of
ginormous
a small
rats.
cat or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure.
Running around the room. So I was like freaking out because who wants to sleep with rats running around on top of you? I slept with the light on. And the next morning I got up, I went and was like, I need to find a place. As soon as it got light, I need to find another place. Well, if I had just paid attention, there had been a hostel right across the the hotel. And I went over to the hostel. I paid another $5 and went to sleep for a couple more hours. And then I went to church that day, and I told, I met some people, and I told this one couple where I was staying, and the father happened to work for the US Embassy as a driver. And he was like, no way, you can't stay in that neighborhood. That's like the most dangerous neighborhood ever. And they took me home. And I ended up having the most amazing time in Panama City because of these generous people. Now, fast forward a couple years, I moved to Honduras to be a teacher. I had no experience being a teacher beforehand, and so it was very trying until I learned something called classroom management. Then I loved it, and then I decided to get my master's in ESL or applied linguistics. And from there, I went to Taiwan, where I met my husband. We moved, we moved to Alaska, and his family had been from Alaska. And when we were in Alaska, we were in culture shock, basically, with the educational system, because in Taiwan, we were at a private school. It was like $20,000 a year to send your kids to this high school. So the parents were really on top of the kids, and they made sure that they behaved, they made sure they did their work, etc. When we got to Alaska, that wasn't the case. And so when we were in Alaska, we kind of started thinking about our exit plan from teaching, and we were looking at real estate. We got some real estate. And then after COVID happened, we were like, we really need to fast forward our exit plan from teaching. It just was very difficult with the students and the parents. And it was just like the lack of being able to follow through on doing homework or studying for tests or anything like that. It was
Like
getting to be, like the accountability is like what happened, and everything is the teacher's fault and whatnot. So I was like, had been really into all these things of like how to make money, right? How could we not be teachers? And I learned about just buying a business. And so we were talking about it. We had this passion for travel, and then we also had a passion for education, and we were like, can we combine that? And then it just so happened that my father was like, hey, did you know that Ellen Butler's selling her travel agency? It would be a great fit for you. You guys like travel, you like missions. A lot of the people who use Butler Travel are schools for their spring breaks. And so we were like, oh, that's a great fit. And it just all happened to work out. And to bring this story full circle, as I told you, I'm giving you the long version, but to bring this story full circle, when we moved to Zambia, we used Butler Travel to get our tickets. And we just kind of feel like it was really providential that we were the ones who took over the reins.
Was it somebody that did you guys know who she was? Was she like a friend of the family or something, or just?
She was a friend of my parents. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's incredible and amazing that you were kind of like in the right, not necessarily physically in the right place at the right time, but in your life at that moment, like that's kind of where you wanted to be. And for that, I love it.
And she had been,
that happen to people.
Yeah, she had been looking to sell it for 2 years. So it was just, and she was really wanting someone who was going to carry on the mission that Butler Travel has. Mm-hmm. And obviously we really love the mission of that Butler Travels has. And so it really was a perfect fit.
That's really fantastic. And it was a longer story, but it didn't feel long at all. I love it. I love travel. We've already gotten a little taste of your travel stories already, so this is great. Before we go further, I do want to give you the opportunity, if you would, to tell everyone where they can find Butler Travel, which I can tell is probably a pretty easy thing to figure out.
Yeah.
And then also, if you have any socials or anything like that where people can find you if they wanted to chat with you.
Yeah, for sure. So butlertravel.com. It's pretty easy to remember. And for our socials, I'm not super active. We're not super active on, this is my husband's job, and he's not a professional at social media either. So we don't post consistently, but Butler Travel 1
is that a bus that just drove by, and where'd your husband go?
So our Instagram is Butler Travel 1, and our Facebook is Butler Travel Oregon. So the company was founded in Oregon, even though we all work remote now. That's why it's called Butler Travel Oregon for the Facebook. And if you just want to get in touch with me to chat about travel, whether you're planning a group or you have any questions, you can contact me at joy@butlertravel.com.
Excellent. Excellent. Awesome. And I'll put all that in the show notes, of course, so everyone has the easiest way to find you and they can click a link instead of having to write it down. But I just like to get it out there so maybe it's in people's head. If they don't do that and they're all of a sudden one day thinking, oh, this is, we're going to do this group travel trip. Oh, that's right. Butler Travels.
Yeah, and actually, I just also have a discount code for our listeners. If they do want to book, it would be Ben10, which I love how it rhymes.
That's awesome. So BEN.
Ben, like where have you been? Ben
Oh,
10.
excellent. So is it two
Yes.
E's or one E? It's
Two
two E's.
E's. Two E's,
That's
yes.
so
Yes.
great. That's so really cool of you to do that. Awesome. So our listeners have to take advantage of that. Absolutely. I'll also put that in the show notes so everyone can take advantage of that. So this is the point, Joy. Nobody knows this and nobody needs to know this, but we did try to do this one other time and we had some technical difficulties, but thankfully everything seems to be knock on whatever. I don't have wood in front of me, but knock on wood if you have it. Everything seems
Yes.
to be perfect right now. So, but this is the point. I don't think we got to this point before. Maybe we did, but this is where I ask you, Joy Owens, where have you been?
Hmm. Yeah. So, where have I been? That is a really big question
Would it
because
be easier for you to say where you haven't been?
yeah, right? So, I haven't been to Antarctica, and up until this summer, I hadn't been to South America either. So, most of my travels has been in Europe and Africa. I've been to all of Central America, and obviously I lived in Taiwan, so I got to see part of Asia. I would say that most, my travels through Central America all happened. Well, I don't want to say how many years ago because that would tell me how old I am. But all
You have
happened when I was just after college. So that would be a lot different now. But we did just recently go this year to Peru and Paraguay and Ecuador. And that was my finally getting my South America continent. So now I only have one continent left,
which is not an easy one,
which is
but
not an easy one,
I have
unfortunately.
full faith and confidence that you'll get there one day. But like, can we start there? Can we start in South America since it's kind of like the freshest in your mind, probably?
Yeah.
Of those places you mentioned, I've only been to Peru, but I love hearing people's stories and experiences of places that I have also been. But I don't know if anyone's mentioned Paraguay on the show ever. I could be wrong because we've had a lot of guests, but yeah, I would love to hear your experiences.
so
And was it just a family? Was it just a getaway for you guys, or
so we went to Peru and Ecuador and the Galapagos for our 10-year anniversary, and that was fun because it was kid free and it made us think of our free years. It was a definitely different experience for us because we decided for the first time ever to use a tour company to just check it out. We kind of wrote it off as a business trip because we were seeing if we wanted to use them as vendors. And so it was, I want to say, it was really nice to have a driver and a tour guide everywhere we went to give us information. It was different from what we normally do, which is pick something, a place, and just like stay and explore on our own.
yeah,
And it had a lot of less adventure to it. So if you're someone who likes adventure, I would suggest doing like one of the hikes. There's so many hikes that you can do in Peru, and we didn't do any of them. So
yeah, and it's because I think most people who do those kinds of tours like that, they want to cram as much in as they can and see
exactly.
as many places as they can. I think that's another. If somebody's out there who's doing like those kind of tour things, I think that's a great idea is to have maybe a little bit of a longer tour with fewer places, so there's more exploration going on. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
just me.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, because we had split it between Peru and the Galapagos, we literally just saw Cusco and Machu Picchu, and then we had to go to the Galapagos. I think that we would have been better if we had just stayed in Peru and seen and like done the hike to Machu Picchu or gone down to the Amazon and done an excursion on the Amazon. It would have given us a fuller perspective of Peru, and I think we might have been able to get, I want to say, like more cultural understanding of Peru and how and
Mhm.
uh, like more connections with Peru. Well, we had a great time in Peru, and we had a great time in Galapagos too. It just wasn't nearly as adventurous as we normally plan our trips.
Did the altitude in Cusco affect either one of you?
Yes. Oh man, I walked off the airplane and I was like, I could barely like walk.
Yeah. Do you feel
But
almost feel heavy? Plus, it's so hot.
it wasn't hot when we were there,
Uh,
so
it
because
was.
we were there in winter.
Oh boy.
But yes, it was hard to walk. It was hard to breathe. I had a huge headache. However, drinking cocoa tea,
Yeah, coca tea
that was
works.
like so amazing. And the next day I felt great. It was just that first day I drank a ton of cocoa tea, and then I actually had to take also some Tylenol.
Yeah. I mentioned on
And
the podcast before, I said, I don't, I may or may not have taken any of that home with me, but you're not allowed to. So, wink,
yeah.
wink, I didn't. I didn't take any home with me. But
I
I
know, which is too
realized,
bad. It's like it's such a great tea.
yeah, I think they're actually, I still have some in the cabinet. But anyway, I will say the thing that I noticed the most, I was much more out of shape then than I am now. And I noticed I noticed how often I hold my breath.
hmm
Even just bending over to tie my shoes, I was literally out of breath and having to catch my breath, just standing
mm,
back up again because the altitude was so it hit me pretty good. Yeah,
yeah. I think when we went down to Machu Picchu, um, it was like, oh wow, we can breathe.
yeah, isn't that crazy? So
And
you think of Machu Picchu as being so high, but
yeah,
it's
but
not
it
comparatively.
wasn't, and it was really kind of funny. So we did so now in Panama, since not Panama, since Peru, in Peru since COVID, they have timed your entries and you end the circuit. So I don't know when you went there, but you can only go on one circuit and you have a specific time that you can do it, and you have like a 2 hour time to be there now.
Yeah.
So we did the circuit two, circuit A, B, the best one, supposedly.
Hmm.
And our guide, it was really funny. He would be like, okay, we're going to wait here for you to catch your breath. And we would get to the landing thing. And I was like, all right, I'm ready to keep going. And then we got to the top and like we took some pictures. And he's like, we'll be here for like 20 minutes for you to relax and catch your breath. And I was like, all right, I took my picture. It wasn't that crowded. I'm ready to go.
Right.
I think the guide was a little bit like, you guys aren't like all the other people I normally take who are huffing and puffing their way up here.
Yeah, I still had some struggles with the up and down, mostly the up, obviously. But again, like when we went, it was very hot, and so and we actually did. I think probably the smartest thing you could do if you're not doing it through a group like you did. My ex-wife actually put this all together. She's a master planner, but we went to Aguas Calientes and we stayed there for 2 nights, and so
Mm-hmm.
and when we got there, I
You got the
believe
tickets for the next day?
I believe we got there. If I'm not mistaken, this was just a couple years ago, but I want to say we went like we got there and we went, and then the next morning we got up and we went again. So we did both, like the afternoon, like the evening, and then we also did the morning.
Nice. Yeah.
And Aguas Calientes was actually a very cool place too, by the way. Like I love when you get
Yeah.
off the train and you're walking into like this massive flea market. Uh,
Yeah.
I just thought that was very cool.
Yes. It is a cool little city. And we didn't stay there for more than we had lunch there. So that was all we did. So we kind of wish that, like, I don't know if you went to the hot springs, that we had time to like go check out the hot springs, even though I've seen reviews that they're mediocre, but I was like, oh, it'd still be fun to experience.
Yeah, we did not do
And it
that.
no. Yeah, and so that was like checking South America off. But then we went to Paraguay, as I mentioned, and this was with our kids. We actually did a family mission trip. So we went with this organization called Maranatha, and they have a family mission trip. So a mission trip for all of all ages. They have activities they have something called a day camp for the kids who are under 12. And then over 12, they can choose to be with their parents working on wherever the parents are working at, or they can come to day camp. So there was two construction groups. There was a group that was painting a church. There was a dental group and a medical group and a VBS group, which is a vacation Bible school. And so every day, so my kids obviously couldn't work all day. They wouldn't want to. Their working skills is, if you can get them to work for 20 minutes, that's pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
So so they were obviously in day camp, and I ended up being the translator for day camp as well, which my Spanish, I lived in Honduras for 2 years, but it had been since 2010, so 15 years. So my Spanish is pretty rusty. But they didn't have anyone else to translate, so I got to translate, tell the bus driver where we were going, communicate with, when we stopped to get ice cream, all these other things. But the kids had a great time because every day they got to experience for a short period of time what they were doing at the work site. So they got to help lay brick, mix cement. Again, for my kids, that lasted like 20 minutes, but then they were playing in the sand pile.
As kids will do.
As kids will do. But I have some really great pictures of them helping, dad and grandpa lay block. And then they got to help with the VBS. And at the VBS, they're interacting with the kids that are like their same age, and as well as doing a bunch of other fun activities like going to see a waterfall, going to a zip line, learning about the dam that is. So we were in the name of the town. It's the town right now next to Iguazu Falls, Iguazu in Brazil. And so there's a river that goes through that separates the two countries, and there's this huge, massive dam on that river. And so we got to go and learn about that. The kids had a really great time. They keep asking when we're going to go back to Paraguay.
Oh, that's great.
Because they made friends, and they made friends of other kids who were on the mission trip, or they also made friends with the local people at the VBS. And so it was not obviously a typical trip that you do with your family, but we really wanted to, like my parents did when we moved to Zambia, we wanted to give them an experience of opening their eyes to what other cultures are like and being of service. And I think they enjoyed it, and it had a good impact on them.
That's awesome. And it'd be, it wouldn't be surprising if your kids grow up with some really cool memories of it too, even if you don't get a chance to go back anytime soon. So
right, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. It sounds like you actually kind of got to explore more doing this than you did, even though you were working a lot, than you did when you were in Peru.
Yes, I mean, we definitely got to be more in the culture. Like we went to the local market and helped pick out food for that everybody was eating. We with the cook. We had someone come in and teach us how to make their cheese bread, pan de queso, and they all got to make it. And then we served it that night to everybody that was there. We got to see like a traditional dances and music. And so it was definitely more of a like immersed cultural experience. And then of course we got to see Iguazu Falls on both the Brazil and Argentina side, which is, massive amount of water coming over that's spread out over like a couple miles. So that was great. And then we also went and see this bird sanctuary and learned all about these native birds to the rainforest and how they're being trafficked, and the loss of the rainforest and how it's impacting them. And so it wasn't just we got the mission and service, but we also got like the environmental impact and how we can help protect the environment as well.
That's very cool. And so let me ask you this: when you guys travel as a family, or whether it's just you and your husband, or whatever the case, if I know that you like the idea of exploring a lot, but do you make it a point, even when you're just traveling for yourselves, to interact as much as you can with the locals and with other travelers, or do you kind of stick to yourselves and explore when you're not doing mission work and you're just on your own, just enjoying your time?
I would say it depends. So, for example, we went to Anguilla for my dad's 70th birthday, and we had a lovely house on the beach. We didn't really leave, and it was, the cousins, great grandma, everybody. So we were very much just at our Airbnb, and the really only interaction we had was at the local bakery down the street where we got croissants every morning that were delicious. So it kind of depends on the trip that we're doing. We do like to not, like when we were in Peru, we changed a hotel like every night or every 2 nights. We don't like
Hmm.
to travel like that. We really like to travel where we're more in one location and do like day trips from there. For example, when my grandma turned 90, she wanted to go back to Italy. she she wanted to find this, I think it was a leather purse that she had bought previously, like when she was 50.
Oh my gosh.
And so she was like, I want to go back there. And she had got it in Siena. She's like, I want to go back there and find that purse again and get another one because it was great. I was like, oh, okay. I'm not sure if they would still have it. But so we got a villa in a vineyard, and not a vineyard, the Olive Garden, Olive Grove outside of Florence. And we just did day trips from Florence. We were there for about 10 days, I believe.
Hmm.
We got to know the family who owned the olive grove and learn all about growing olives and processing olives and all that stuff. But then we also got to go and see the touristy things, like, go into Florence and see all the art museums, all the museums, so many things you can see in Florence. And then we also went to Cinque Terre. We went to Siena. My grandmother did not find the purse, if anybody's wondering, that she
I'm a little
wanted.
bit not surprised, unfortunately.
But we had a really lovely time. We ate gelato every single day. Uh, at the small little town that was near our vineyards, not our vineyard, I keep saying it, our villa, which was in Olive Grove. And so we kind of got to know the little town very well and the person who owned the gelato shop.
Well, the cool thing is about this, I'm glad that we've met and we've had this conversation because now I know when I hit a momentous birthday what I'm going to ask for because there was this wonderful fried cheese in Santorini and I will never find it the same again. So I think I might want to go back and find that
There you
someday.
go.
So somebody needs to take me to Santorini for a big birthday. But
So you can get that fried cheese.
yes,
Hey,
it
you
was
know
wonderful.
what? That sometimes there's some food that really sticks out to you. So I love Asian food. I love noodles and I love curry and whatnot. So when we were in Taiwan, now I'm a vegetarian, so sometimes finding food that doesn't have shrimp or fish or whatever in it is a little hard when you're traveling in Asia. When we were in Taiwan, there was this vegan restaurant that had, I don't know what they were called in Chinese, but I just called them yummy things on a stick. It was probably like a it was tofu that was in some sort of peanut satay kind of sauce. When I moved back from Taiwan, I would have dreams about being back in Taiwan and trying to find this like hole in the wall restaurant to get that yummy thing on a stick.
Oh my gosh. That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine that. I've definitely had some meals that I'll never ever forget for different reasons, but I'm actually kind of foreshadowing here. We'll leave that be. So
Okay.
so awesome. Is there anything else from South America that you wanted to get into that maybe a fun story or memory of being there before we moved anywhere else?
I would so just for if anybody likes snorkeling, Galapagos has amazing
Oh,
snorkeling.
I've heard that.
I'm not a big fan of snorkeling. I always get salt water in my I have a small face, so I have a hard time getting a mask that actually fits me and doesn't leak, and I always end up swallowing water and whatever. But
Neither did I.
I had a fabulous time snorkeling there, and it was the amount of diversity. I swam with sharks for the first time, which was also a little nerve wracking. But supposedly they're reef sharks, so no problems there. Seals and just so much diversity. So if you're into that, definitely make Galapagos on your wish list because of the amount of diversity. And then just learning about the tortoises and all the other history of the Galapagos, like was more of a pirate hangout for a long time, outlaw hangout for a long time until they actually made it into like a national park. It was very interesting to learn about. But yeah, other than that, I think I need to explore South America more. Mm-hmm. Chile and Argentina are on my list, and Colombia, but we'll see. Yeah. We'll see when we get there.
Yeah, I've been to Colombia, not the other two. Colombia is wonderful. Medellin is, people sick of me saying it. It's one of my favorite places that I've ever been. So definitely, if you go to Colombia, check out Medellin. Highly recommend. But
yeah.
So I like to put people on the spot sometimes. I don't mean to, but let me put you on the spot. So if you and I were just sitting down together at a bar with a drink or a coffee shop or whatever the case may be, and we just realized that we are both so in love with travel, what would be like the first story that you have to tell me? Like, this happened to my husband and I, or this happened to my family, and this was crazy or funny, or what's one of those stories that you'd have to tell?
Well, I think I already told one with the rats. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. So I have a couple of kind of related, but so a lot of people are obviously fearful of travel because it's unknown. They don't want to get robbed. They don't want to get hurt, whatnot. I, for some reason, don't have that fear. I probably should. Now that I'm older and have kids, now I'm like, oh, I have that fear because I have kids. But I'm going to tell two stories. One was when I was 20, we were in Ukraine and we were there I was with my family and we were at this place. We had gone there to do some health seminars, and then we were at this health retreat place where my dad was there for some meetings, and there was nothing to do. So I was like, hey, to this other person who happened to be, I think, like 15, hey, let's take the train and go to Kiev. And I convinced somebody else, a boy who was, I think, 22 at the time, like, hey, come with us so that, we'd have a little bit of safety. So we convinced somebody to drive us to the train station. We got to Kiev at like midnight and called somebody that we knew that was living there, like, hey, can we come and crash with you? They're like, sure, of course. While we were doing that, this drunk person came up and was like in our faces, and I was and in like the 15-year-old girl's face, and I was like, I swore in Tonga, which was the language in Zambia, because that was like the first thing that came to my mind, and I pushed him. I was like, swore at him and I pushed him. I was like, get away. And then obviously he got super surprised and like went away. Well, I made the mistake of not telling my parents where I was going. And so,
oh no.
They were like, where did Joy go? Or like I said, oh, I'm just going to like go to Kiev. But then they thought maybe I was coming back that same day. Anyways. And somebody like, my dad was like, I hope she is okay. This is before cell phones.
I was just going to say that.
So. And my dad's friend was like, oh, I wouldn't worry about Joy. She can handle it. And so when I told him the story, like later, he was like, oh yeah, you handled it. It was a little scary coming back, not the train ride. We took a taxi from the train ride back to the sanitarium, and he was driving like, I don't know, 100 miles an hour on this very pot-filled road. And there was no seatbelts in the back of the car. And I was like, this is where we're going to die.
Not the drunk guy.
Not the drunk guy. No, it was the taxi driver.
Taxi driver.
Yeah. But on that similar vein, when I was living in Honduras. I had a friend come visit me. It was 2 weeks before I left Honduras to go back to Colorado to go to school for my master's. And I had this friend visiting me. We were walking. It was like just after sunset. We were walking to get baleadas, which is like a flat burrito. Basically, what it is, it's got beans, it's got queso or cheese, and it's got sour cream in it, and it's flat. A very typical food in Honduras. And so as we were walking, we almost made it down. We were on my street, almost made it to the main street when these two guys on bicycles came up with a gun and were like, give at, in Spanish, they were telling us to give my phone because I had my phone out. And then also they wanted my friend's purse. In my friend's purse, she had her passport and her wallet and her camera and, basically everything. And so I was like, I can't let these people take her purse. So I was like trying to negotiate with these people who are trying to rob us, these two guys, telling them like, hey, you don't want to rob us. We're tourists to your country. You don't want to give a bad feeling to people who are tourists. You want them to love your country. As the guy's like waving his gun around saying, give me your phone, give me the purse. And I was like trying to reason with him. Finally, he just like grabbed the phone out of my hand and they both bicycled away. And of course, all I could think about was like my chip, which had like all my contacts in it. And I was like yelling at him, give me back my chip. You can have the phone. And then the neighbor came out and was like, were you just robbed? And I was like, yeah, stupid robbers. My friend was like ducked down, hiding behind me the whole time, obviously willing for me to take a bullet. I honestly, at the time, didn't really think that they were serious with the gun because he was just waving the gun around, had never actually pointed it at me. Mm-hmm. And I, at that time, I was like not scared at all. When I came back to the United States and I was in like Vale at dusk and I saw somebody biking toward me on a bicycle, I freaked out. I was like, oh, I got some PTSD. Oh, anyways, God. That all goes to just say like, you can travel and have really great times and you can travel and have scary situations, but you, just the way you like frame it and you look at it and deal with it, it can really just make any bad situation still a positive memory in a way. For example, another example is like we went biking with our kids across Europe. So we went from Germany, the border of Germany, Passau, Germany. The goal was to go all the way to Budapest. And this was with my parents and my brother and his family. So there was 6 kids, 4 of them under 3, I think. Wow. And we were camping, right? So the experience was actually really rough. It was hot. We had complaining kids. we didn't get to see any of the tourist sites. All we saw was the playgrounds or the water park. Then it rained when it wasn't hot. So, if you were to think about like, oh, was that a great vacation? No, it wasn't a great vacation, but it was actually an awesome experience. We have great memories of the suffering that we did, and we would do it again in a heartbeat. So sometimes when you traveling, doing as what like we call the type 2 fun is more meaningful, more impactful than just going to a beautiful beach and sitting on the beach, which I love to do both. I love doing both. So
yeah, we've talked about stuff like that on the podcast before. Like some things, when you experience some adversity or something, given that you get through it, of course.
Yes, you want to get through it.
Those types of things can be some of the coolest memories, and especially if it's like, I've had people like they're trapped in a subway and they have to find a way out, and they finally just cling to somebody who doesn't even speak the same language, and they're like, "We're going with you," and these cool things, of these like moments of, you missed your flight from Italy to home, which actually happened to me once and to one of my fellow guests, and like the stories that we had and the memories from stuff like that were just incredible. And we were like so glad that stuff happened because it created more for us than what we would have had just on our regular vacation. So
yeah,
I love it. Yeah. So I guess maybe not transitioning per se, but where are some of the favorite places that you guys have been, or some of your favorite vacations or trips that you've been on that you haven't already mentioned? Because you have so many.
So I really love Baja, Mexico. We have gone there several times. So normally, like, we don't go back to places that we've already been. We like to try to someplace new. But
Love it.
I just really like Baja, Mexico so much. So I'm like, oh, let's go back. Let's go back. We've been there, I think, like 4 times. And I'm like, let's go back for Christmas. The first time we were in north of Cabo in Los Los Barrias, I think. Had our Airbnb right on the sand on the beach, and it was a lovely beach. It's a big kite surfing town, so when the wind's blowing, it's pretty popular for that. We were there past the season, and so it was actually pretty empty. And you can rent ATVs and drive up the dried up riverbed, the Aurora, and go horseback riding. So it was just a really nice, chill vibe. Um, and then we also have kayaked in out of Loreto, which is about, I think, halfway up in the Baja Peninsula between like California and Cabo. We decided to buy these kayaks that folded and like up into a box so you can travel with them. And we had done 2 trips in Alaska around the fjords up there. And we decided we were going to go to Mexico and kayak around this island. It was a bigger trip because where we had kayaked in Alaska, it's all like in protected water. You don't get the waves or anything like that unless it's windy. So we went to Loreto. We went around Isla de Mujeres, I believe is the island that we did. And it was very windy. And so we were just staying on the side of the island that didn't have as much wind. I think that's what called the leeward side. My terminology, I don't quite remember.
I'm going to take your word for it.
Yeah. So we were supposed to go like all the way around it, but we just decided to stay where the wind wasn't so bad because on the other side it was windy and it was just the waves were a lot bigger. Well, it came time for us to go back to the main. So we had taken a taxi to the island and dropped us off at the top of the island, and then we were going to come. We paddled down the island to the bottom where there's a 4-mile crossing, and this is the point where we're like, oh man, like, on the map, it doesn't seem like a big ideal to do a 4-mile crossing, but when the wind's blowing and the waves seem very big, it was a little daunting. So we were just like sitting on the beach, like, are we going to do this? Are we going to do this? We saw some people come across the other direction and they were like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like, just paddle hard. So finally my husband was like,
Just paddle hard. Oh,
I mean, they were like with a tour guide. It was like a tour guide who was like, yeah, just paddle hard. You'll be fine. Like, okay, you were actually leading these people. We're doing things,
oh my gosh.
DIY. So my husband's like, let's just do it. We just got to do it. All right. I was like, all right. You just envisioning like us tipping over in the waves and like, floating out to sea, some all the way down to Cabos or something like that. So we get in our kayaks, we paddling hard. I'm like white knuckling the paddle. We're like in the middle of the channel, and there's just this seal who's just like lounging, and he's like looking at us like, "What you guys doing out here?" I just remember the
You
seal
guys are
being like,
nuts.
yeah, like just anyways, just looking at the seal and seeing how relaxed he was, I was like, okay, maybe I can be a little bit more relaxed and just enjoy this experience. We made it safely across. It wasn't that hard of a paddle. It was, we just had to keep our angle and it was fine, but it was very nerve-wracking to start with. So,
Yeah,
anyways, the Cabo Mex Baja's got a warm spot in my heart.
I actually had a guest on that does a lot of RVing, and that's one of their favorite places as well. And she actually wrote a book about them RVing the entirety of the Baja Peninsula. So
Yeah.
I can hook you up with that at some point if you haven't heard the episode or if
Yeah.
you don't check it out.
Yeah, I'll check it
It
out.
was very cool. But anyway, I digress. Back to you.
So another country or another place. Well, so we don't live in Alaska anymore. So Alaska is beautiful, especially if you go when there's nice weather, which in the summer when it's sunny, or in the winter when it's not blowing 80 miles an hour, or and there's snow on the ground. So definitely certain places in Alaska hold a special place. Like I definitely recommend everyone experience it, whether you're going on a cruise or whether you go and do it yourself. The scenery is just so amazing, and to see the animals, there's just such a wildness about Alaska.
Yeah, I don't think much about. So, like, I think about going there, and I most like if how do I want to let me back myself up and get from tripping over my tongue. I've only done one cruise ever, and I liked the idea of the cruise that we did because it was in the Caribbean, and we could kind of pop off to a little island and just kind of check things out. And you don't necessarily need to explore for a full day on some of these places, but it's cool just to kind of see the vibe and whatever. I think Alaska is another place I'd like to do an Alaskan cruise. I think that would be my way in to
Yeah,
Alaska.
and it's like a great way to see the Southeast Alaska because there's not roads connecting them. So the only way to get through is by flying or by taking a boat. And so you could take the ferry, but that's not exactly the most comfortable way to do it. And it's actually not a whole lot cheaper than just taking a cruise. So I would definitely recommend doing a cruise through Southeast Alaska. And that way you can see, Sitka, Ketchikan, Juneau, all those little
Well,
towns.
you should be like a travel agent.
Yeah, I know, right? So, if you ever are interested in Alaska cruise, I think I might know someone who could hook you up with what to do.
Excellent.
And then the country that I really like, I've only been there twice. Hopefully to be there more than twice is New Zealand. So I got to experience New Zealand on my 40th birthday with my friends, where we did some biking adventures. We did a mountain biking trip, and then we did a pack rafting trip down this river and really adventurous type stuff. And then we went back with my family this past May for a wedding, and we did an RV trip, which was the first time we've done an RV trip. And we loved it because we had the bathroom with us wherever we went, and we had food with
Mm.
us wherever we went.
Hmm.
The kids loved it. We went there, as I said, in May, so it was kind of the off season. We were on the North Island, and we just did the boondocking or the free camping along the different beaches and had a lovely time. This is like my first trip where I didn't really plan much. I planned for us to have an RV, and that was it. And so we kind of just took it day by day, and based on what people said we should go check out and do, that's what we did. It was
I'll tell
so
you what,
relaxing.
not a single person that I've spoken with in any, whether it's in the podcast, which many people have talked about New Zealand, or even outside where I'm just talking travel with somebody, not a single person has had a bad word to say about New Zealand. And to the contrary, like even and anyone who I have talked to who hasn't been there, it's on their list. And if they have been there, even if they don't like to go back to places like you and like myself, it's on their list to go back to as well. And I will be happy to announce right now that as of the airing of this episode, I will be there in less than 2 weeks. So I'm
Woohoo! That's exciting.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So one of my best friends moved over there, and she's married to a Kiwi. So we definitely plan to going back and visiting. I really loved, if you've never traveled before, going to a place like New Zealand or Australia or Ireland, those are really great countries for first time travelers because it's they speak English. It's easy to navigate. The people are lovely, and this you still get the like I'm in a different country experience. So if any of you are listening and you're like, I've never been on a trip, those are my top 3 suggestions for people who've never traveled before.
Depending on where you're coming from, not cheap necessarily, although I found
No.
a very cheap flight. And then, so I found a flight for $9.50 from Pittsburgh, which is very cheap. And then the
Yeah.
next day, I've mentioned this on the podcast before, there's a site called going.com, which I subscribe to, and they send you when they find just a cheap flight or something that needs to be booked fast. And you might have to book it within a day, but the flights might be months away. The next morning, I kid you not, 12 hours later, they sent me an email of $792 flights for the exact same flight I booked. And I know that I could cancel within 24 hours, but I wasn't in the situation to have to be able to wait for the money to go back in
Yeah.
my card and blah, blah, blah. So I just left it as is, but I was so bummed. It was the
Yeah.
next day. But I don't know if I told you my daughter lives there. And
Oh,
so
no. Yeah.
her and her boyfriend are moving, we thought, to Spain middle of this year. So I thought, well, I need to get there while I have a place to stay before they go. Well, now, worse or better, you can take your pick. They're still moving this summer, but they're sounds like they're moving to Australia. So now I'll have another place to go.
There you go. Yeah, it is amazing sometimes like how cheap tickets are to certain places and how expensive they are to certain places. So for example, as you mentioned, you got a really great deal going to New Zealand. The first time I went to New Zealand, I got it for $600 from Phoenix, which is like, they were trying to encourage people to come back after COVID, after they just finally opened up. Um,
Yeah.
but just this past fall, I got notices from Auckland to Auckland from LA that they were like 750 for during Christmas time. So you could
Wow.
definitely get a cheap flight. I mean, it might be more expensive to fly from wherever you are to LA than
But
getting the flight
you're
to,
you're straight
to
shot
Auckland.
though from LA, right? I mean,
Yes,
so
it's a straight shot. Yeah, yeah.
which is
Um,
nice.
and we're going to Morocco in August or July, and I was super surprised at how cheap the flights were to Morocco. So we're doing there's a solar eclipse this summer, August, I think it's August 12th, that hits Iceland and then goes down and through Spain and into the Mediterranean. So we're doing a cruise where we get to see the solar eclipse from the middle of the Mediterranean. But the cruise is going to Spain and it's going to Italy, and I'm like, I've already been to these places. Let's go someplace new ahead of time. And going to Spain, like the tickets are like, $1,800 because of the solar eclipse. But going to Morocco, it was like, oh, I actually upgraded us to Comfort on Delta because they were so inexpensive. It was like, I don't know, $1,000. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it's like sometimes, if you're have flexibility and you don't mind extra legs in your journey, you can be creative in getting to where you need to go for less than is actually, a direct shot.
Yeah. And I don't know exactly what's happening right now, to be honest. We are recording this mid January, and something is going. I'm getting tons of emails from this place again that I subscribe to. I mean, there's so many good deals right now that I just wish, like Ireland
You
and
had time
400.
for it.
Yeah, Ireland in the $400 range, like Costa Rica $230. It's like I can't believe what's happening. I guess
Yeah,
it's just time of year.
it is time of year, and then
A lot of
also
places
like,
it's like shoulder season, whatever you want to call it.
yeah, exactly. It's shoulder season. So if you're able to travel in the shoulder season, you can definitely get flights for cheaper. You can get hotels for cheaper. I personally like traveling in shoulder seasons or in off seasons because of that aspect of things being cheaper and not as crowded. You don't have to fight the crowds to, you know, see the Acropolis or something like that. Um, it's not everybody though can take off on shoulder seasons.
Right.
Especially if
Especially
you
if you
have
have
kids in,
families.
in, in
Yeah.
school, then it makes it
Yeah.
it makes it more difficult. But that's
Yeah.
definitely a tip I recommend people trying if they would like to travel and they want to do it a little cheaper.
Yeah. If you have kids, here's a recommendation: live near parents or family that you can leave the kids for a week, 10 days, and they're still cared for.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Or then also just thinking about it from the educational perspective, like what are they really going to miss in 10 days that going on
sure.
a historical trip, a trip to, Florence is, they're going to see so much more and probably learn so much more by the experiential being in that environment than in the classroom.
Sure.
That's coming from a teacher. I give you permission to take your kids out of school.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's something when our kids were small, the schools used to require that if you were taking the kids out of school, you had to have some sort of reasoning for it, and it had to be either a family event or something, or like educational purposes, and we justified it that way. Like, hey, we're going to a new place in a totally different culture, and they're going to learn so much when we're there, and we're going to see so many cool things, and so that's how we justified it, and it was totally worth it, totally worth it. They can catch up on their studies,
Yes,
especially at
they
that
can,
age. You know.
especially at that age. Yeah.
Yep. So
And if they're in middle school or high school, they probably don't even want to leave their friends. But
yeah, maybe. But so I'm shocked that we're already over an hour, which was fine. I'm not in any rush, but I do want to make sure that if there's any other places that you have been, that you have any like cool stories or memories that you'd like to share. I think you said you've been to Africa, you've been to India,
I have not been to India.
not to India.
No, no. But I lived in Taiwan, so we went to Thailand, we went to Cambodia, went to Vietnam. It's
I
actually
want
our
to go to
trip.
Asia so bad.
Yeah, so it's pretty cheap to get around in Asia comparatively to other places. We actually did a it was on my first bike trip was actually across Cambodia, and we went with a tour company, and it was such a fun experience. As you probably can see, when we travel, we do adventure for the most part. So this was pre kids, pre, anything. So it was me and my roommate at the time, and then some friends from the States who met us in Cambodia. And we biked from Siem Reap over to the town that I cannot pronounce. Starts with an S though. So basically, we biked across the entire country of Cambodia and in a week. And it was a much different way to see a country because we were going these back roads. We stopped at these little villages. We were like, as again, I said, off the beaten path. So we would stop and see these temples that there was no other tourist at. And it was such a unique way of seeing a country as opposed to being in a car and driving around or in a bus with a bunch of other people.
Sure. Plus, everything is whizzing by so fast. It's tough
Yeah.
to really get a taste for what it is.
Yeah.
And I've said this to people too. Walking or riding a bike is always best because you don't only get you can get a better sense of like the visuals, but you also get the smells and the feels of like you get the wind and the sound, which you don't get when you're in a vehicle. So
Yeah. And you might think so obviously when we biked across Europe, we camped. It was rough, right? When we did Cambodia, we did five-star hotels. Planned a trip for some clients in Namibia. They did the same thing. It was a mountain biking trip where they would bike through Namibia, at different parts of Namibia. They biked through a game park, all different places. But at the end of the day, they were in this five-star luxury, whether it was a camp or a hotel or whatnot. And so it was a great way to combine a physical adventure with also the luxury.
oh yeah, go back at night, have a nice meal, maybe a warm
Yeah,
bath.
get a massage,
Sure.
relaxed in the hot tub.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
Yeah. I,
So,
I that's
wait,
kind of I think I like adventure, but then also nice
little
place to
pamper.
sleep. Yeah, a little
Yeah.
pamper.
How long was the bike trip that you did across Europe with the whole family?
um, let's see. We it was supposed to be, I think, 3 weeks,
That
but
is,
we got to Bratislava, and my son and my husband got COVID, and then my daughter and I fell sick shortly after that.
oh
So
no.
we did not do the rest of the journey to Budapest. We took the train. It was also extremely hot. It was like Europe was having record-breaking temperatures. That was like when they were painting the rail white in England because it was so hot. And so my sister-in-law and the kids and my mother also, after like 3 days of biking, maybe 4 days, they also decided to take the train to Budapest. And so it was only my father and my brother who actually made it all the way to Budapest. It was like 300 miles of biking. So we did, I think, half of that. So like 150. Um,
That's still pretty
and
serious.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we had a lot of extra time in Budapest, which is a really lovely city. It's very got these really gorgeous old buildings and the hot spring or the mineral baths, and we enjoyed our extra time there. But our favorite city actually was Bratislava, at least the old part of Bratislava. They had an ice they have a great ice cream culture there. There was like an ice cream store like every 3 stores. It was pretty
Very
amazing.
interesting.
Yeah, yeah. And they also had these really delicious different types of lemonade where they would have like a strawberry lemonade, raspberry lemonade, but then they would have like hibiscus lemonade and mint lemonade. And so we enjoyed trying the different lemonades, and we enjoyed having a lot of ice cream. Which if
Yeah,
you're
that's great.
biking and it's hot out,
Ah,
that's what you need.
perfect. Lemonade and ice cream?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's very cool. Literally. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so
So I was going to
yeah, go
say
ahead.
we spent a total of 6 weeks in Europe. Before the bike trip, we did a road trip through from Croatia over to Serbia through Montenegro, Albania, Macedonia, and all those Balkan countries. And so we had a pre-trip where we were biking out, driving slash staying in Airbnbs, and then we did the biking trip. So it was a total of 6 weeks in Europe.
Very, very awesome. I think I would have maybe done it the opposite way and started with the biking and then had the road trip stuff.
Yeah.
But hindsight, but still very, very cool. How much time have you actually spent in Europe? Have you I mean, most people I think if you've traveled a lot have probably spent a lot of time in Europe, but
Yeah. So when I was younger, after I came back from my trip through Central America, I worked as a cook in Portugal for 2 months and then Germany for 3 months. So I've lived in Europe for 5 months. And then, we've done a couple trips to Italy, to Greece, to Spain. We did our bike trip. So different times, but all great experiences. And I don't know, all put together. Maybe I've been to Europe for 7 months.
wow, still that's pretty incredible for really only living there for a small well I guess a decent part of that 7 months, but
Yeah.
still that's really awesome. Favorite places in Europe?
Hmm. Well, I already mentioned Bratislava for the ice cream.
Huh?
Um, I really enjoyed where we stayed in Italy. It was just such a special place, a small village off the beaten path. We felt like locals because of that. And and then Albania. I wish we had had more time to explore Albania. It
Wow.
was yeah. We were only there for like think like 5 days. And we only saw the top part of Albania, so a lot more to explore. It was very beautiful. The people were really lovely. It was very inexpensive, and we were like, "Why didn't we spend more time here?"
I know very little about it. What is there to see in Albania?
So the
Besides
top,
obviously.
yeah. So we were in the north, and there was this place. I don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's called Theeth, Theth. It's this village up in the mountains that's just surrounded by mountains. It's a little valley. It's you go there and you like feel like you're a couple hundred years in history in the past. There are people who are like hanging by hand. The scenery is beautiful. So we saw that. We also were at the beach in the northern part, which was black sand. And there are some other like lakes and rivers. There's like this river that kind of looks like you're in Thailand, but we didn't actually go in it. We didn't have time. And then in the south, they have a lot more beautiful beaches because it's actually really close to Greece, and so there's similar beaches to that. And I'm sure there's historical things to see too in the capital and whatnot. But we didn't see that. We just were on the northern part, and we just enjoyed it because of the people and how delicious the food was and how cheap it was. And
Yeah, very cool. I don't know that I've had anyone mention Albania, so that's why I was just curious about that.
yeah.
I guess I'll just say, in the interest of time, anywhere else in the world that you've been that you would, be remiss if you didn't mention, whether it's just about the place or a story or experience that you've had there off the top of your
Um,
head, and if not, no big.
yeah, I was gonna say, like, okay, so uh as I mentioned, I we moved to Zambia. Zambia is a beautiful country to visit as well. It's got Victoria Falls, and it's got some really great game parks, and the people are really lovely in Zambia. And where I lived along the Kafue River, and there was like this escarpment behind where we lived, and I would climb up every day and watch the sunset. And so that obviously has a special memory. But it, so, like, we think of Africa, you usually think of like Kenya or Masai Mara.
Hmm.
Um, People do think of Victoria Falls because that's a pretty big thing, but usually you don't think of the game parks in Zambia. They do have some pretty nice game parks that are not nearly as popular as if you were to go to Masai Mara or the Serengeti, that you can see some pretty good wildlife. We actually took some students when we were in Taiwan. We planned a educational tour and took students to Zambia for a month. We did all sorts of things, took them to Victoria Falls. We had them immersed in a local village. They worked in the field. They helped make local food. So they had all that stuff. But then we also spent a great amount of time in a game park where they went on safaris every day. They did the walking safari, and they made, where the guide was actually teaching them like how to track animals. And I it was a great learning experience for the students that we brought
That is
as well.
awesome.
Yeah. As well, it was just like the place we stayed was also lovely because it had a pool, and it was lovely. It was a nice place.
Hmm.
So
I was going to
something.
actually ask you, where did you stay when you were there for that long?
Yeah, we stayed at a lodge, and we had like this whole package with the lodge where they supplied it was all inclusive. They had the food, they had the game park, the guide who would take us into the game park, and they just tailored it. We were able to get them to tailor it to a more educational type of experience.
So awesome. Honest to goodness, like, people who are listening right now, like, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. If you're thinking about doing any sort of like a group travel something, you have to check out Butler Travel, because is that what did I say that right?
Yes, 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 yeah.
Goodness, jeez, it scared myself. But yeah, it's just you're so knowledgeable, and the things that you are even mentioning that you've already done and things you've done for other people are just so outside the box from what I would think of going through a travel agency. So
Yeah.
really fantastic.
I think that's one reason buying this business just fits so well with us, because when we've traveled so much, one we it too like we love doing these adventures, right? So it's really easy for me to share with a client where they could go in Africa, or a bike tour to, if they were wanting a more authentic tour in Cambodia or Vietnam, or they want, to mix the luxury with the adventure.
Yeah,
we
like, I love when you said like you were in an all inclusive lodge. What a perfect situation. That's so
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. Or whether they wanting to, they're taking students, and so it has to be a little bit lower budget, but they still want a great experience, right? Because you don't just want to go and see things. You want to have that
Some
experience.
downtime too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you want to make it transformational.
Yeah. Very, very cool. Well, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say, in the interest of time, let's go into the final five questions
All
that I
right,
have for
final
you.
five questions.
And if anything comes up, like any of the, you can answer as long as you want for your answers that you give, because we're not like tight on time or anything, but I just like to be mindful. So,
Mhm.
and then if you think of any stories or experiences that we've missed before we wrap up, we can go over those as well. So if you are ready, Joy,
Yeah, I am ready.
and you don't know these,
I, uh, I've forgotten them.
Okay, good. They'll come back to you, but at least you don't have answers prepared. So I love it. So, question number one, and we've talked about food, but I don't know necessarily that we've talked about where in the world, outside of being in your own home, wherever that happened to be at the time, where in the world has been your favorite meal experience that you've ever had? And I phrase it very carefully.
Yeah, so my favorite meal experience was when I talked about we were in Italy, the owner of the villa that we were staying at slash the Olive Grove, she came and gave us an authentic cooking class. So we all together as a whole family, we learned to make pasta and make local sauce, and then we ate it. It was delicious. It was the best Italian food I have had, but it was the experience of her teaching us in her broken English and us all working together, like rolling out the dough and cutting it and cooking it. The whole meal, I think, took 2 hours to prepare. We were
Yeah,
hungry. The pasta did not last long, unfortunately. There was no leftovers.
I can imagine. But yeah, how cool. Because the whole family together, doing it together.
Yeah.
And not only that, but all the like super fresh ingredients. And I'm
Yes,
sure
very.
just,
They were like from her garden.
oh man, so awesome. All right, excellent answer for question number one. You're setting the bar high. Question number two, I say this a lot, is probably one of my favorites. Scares some people, but of all the places in the world that you have been, if I was to even say to you, Joy, here you go, take your family, it's a free trip on me, you would say, no thanks,
Oh,
I don't want to go back.
oh, I don't want to go back. Oh, I thought you said where would it be? I was about to say Antarctica because obviously I want a free trip there. I won't go back. Hmm.
Hmm.
Well, yeah, you stumped me on this one. Where would I say I won't go back?
And I'll give you some tips. So some people I have had people say there's nowhere because everywhere deserves another try, blah blah blah, whatever. And there's different areas of places that you've been, maybe north or south or whatever. And I've also had people say, well, I wouldn't go back here because I've done it and I don't need to go back there again. I'm good.
Hmm. um, Disney World.
That is one of the more popular answers. It's funny.
But I mean, I haven't taken my kids there, so I'm sure it's still in my future, but
Yeah, you probably have to go at least one
I
more time.
probably have to go at least one more time.
How many times have you been?
Only once.
Oh, and that was enough.
That was enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just not your thing or just too busy?
Yeah, it's just too busy. It's not my thing. Um, yeah. I'd say
You're on the
another one.
adventurous side, but it's more natural adventures than roller coaster.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I don't mind roller coasters. I don't know. It's like I don't think I like the people like dressed up the characters and that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Good answer. Good answer. All right. Well, number three makes things a little bit easier because I flip it 180. Although I'm not giving you a free trip, but
Oh
of
man.
all the, of all the places in the world that you have been, still where you have been, uh, where if you could only pick one or two of the places that you've been to go back to, where would those one or two places be?
Man, I kind of feel like I answered this question already because I said I love Cabo Baja. I've been
I
there
knew that
four
was
times and I would go there again. So yeah, Baja or New Zealand.
excellent. Okay. And I know the answer to this one already, but maybe you can pick a second one. So, of all the places in the world that you have never been, question four, where are the one or two places that you absolutely must get to?
Okay. So yeah, so as I mentioned, I definitely want to go to Antarctica. Now, my my grandmother who's 97 and my parents went there this past February and it's so beautiful like seeing their pictures. So it's kind of hard to take that one off my list even though I know it's an expensive trip to save up for. But another one that is high on my list is actually Colombia. It's been on my list for a very long time. So I need to go there as well.
Yeah, awesome. And those are good choices. So, to wrap things up with question five, it's easy, and you've already, I think, kind of mentioned part of this as well, which did happen sometimes because we talk a lot. So, but question number five is Joy, where are you going? What's in your plans already for the maybe coming year?
Yeah, I already mentioned I'm going to Morocco, but my
Mm-hmm.
next trip is actually skiing in Copper Mountain in Colorado. And I'm pretty excited about that. It's been maybe 10 years since I've been skiing there. So I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also
Awesome.
looking forward to Morocco because that's a new country that's been on my list for a long time, too.
I'm excited for you because I've heard good things about Morocco as well. So excellent. Well, this has been so much fun. Is there anything else, anything we missed that kind of popped into your head that I just want to make sure I give you that opportunity?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I do have more stories, but I think we did cover a lot of stories. But just again,
Mhm.
if any of your listeners would like help planning, a adventure slash luxury trip, or whether you are someone who's planning a trip and wanting to take your whole family, making it a group, feel free to reach out to us. Go to butlertravel.com, and again, there's the discount code for 10% off our services, and that'd be Ben10, like where have you been? 10.
So awesome. Again, I appreciate you so much for doing that. It's so awesome. Any final words about just travel in general or about anything before
Yeah.
we
So I
stop?
would say do it. Traveling is transformational. You'll open your mind to new cultures, new experiences. Don't be scared to try something new.
Yep. Agreed 100%. Joy Owens, this has been so much fun. Time flew by. Really, really, I'm so thankful that we were able to do this a second time. And actually, I think everything's hopefully turned out really well. And just appreciate you and for taking the time with me. So,
Thank you again for having me.
and there's another episode of the Where Have You Been podcast in the books. Thank you so much for listening today. It was another great guest with some great stories, as always. And I hope that you will support all of the guests by checking out the show notes and going to their web pages, seeing any socials and projects that they may have going on. And please, again, I'll ask as always to like, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. It really does help to allow the podcast to grow and reach more people, and I appreciate you for doing that. Also, if you haven't done so, check out the website, whybpodcast.com, where you can find blog posts. If you'd like to be a guest, please register to be a guest on the site. And check out the merch page. There's some really cool stuff if you're interested in representing the pod, along with some other cool travel items and apparel that I'm working on every day as well. Join me again next week for another great guest with more incredible stories. New episodes drop every Sunday just after midnight Eastern Time. Until then, thank you for being here, and have a great day.